but also that like addiction is like you're like the walking dead. You're alive, but your spirit's dead. You're dead inside. If you're fully in addiction, you're dead inside. And so we just liked the idea, the symbolism of like the undead, like we've come back from the dead and here we are. And so I was a creative. He's a creative. I'm a creative. I was a makeup artist for a long time. I was a floral designer for several years, used to do like big weddings and events. And that was something that died when I got sober. The creativity in me just, I don't know.
This is Rock Bottom with Ryan. No sugarcoating, no filters. The pain, the chaos, the truth. No bullshit. Just recovery.
Sober Strong apparel isn't just lifestyle wear, it's battle gear. We rep sobriety like a badge of honor, and every piece you throw on says you're part of the crew that doesn't back down. Every order fuels recovery with 10% donated to treatment facilities. Hit SoberStrongApparel.com and use code ROCKBOTTOM at checkout for 10% off. Stay sober, stay true, rep the crew.
Welcome to another episode of Rock Bottom with Ryan. I'm here with my co-host Rachel, and we got the Undead Club with us today. Would you guys like to introduce yourselves?
Hey guys, I'm Brandon, and
I'm Amanda.
Yep,
Awesome.
and
Glad to have
we are the
you.
Undead Club.
Awesome. Glad to have you here.
Glad to have you.
Awesome.
Thank you for having us.
So this is about more of a recovery podcast. So we like to talk about, people's backgrounds in the past, whether it's addiction to drugs, alcohol, and kind of go into what that was like and how you transitioned into recovery and where you're at today. So we'll kind of start with where both of you were. What were your drugs of choice and what are your sober dates?
Go for it.
So my drug of choice was predominantly alcohol, although I did dabble in other things. And it's actually, my story is unique because it was once I was in recovery from alcohol, I was introduced to plant medicine as a way to heal trauma. And then that kicked off a whole new addiction. And I haven't touched that since 2023. So yeah, but that's interesting. It was interesting because I ended up doing like a cross addiction.
Okay.
Those are always fun. Addiction. Okay, so yeah, mine was, well, it started with alcohol when I was a kid, and normalized alcoholism in my family, and then that led into other things, alcohol, coke, and then somewhere around 2008, I found opiates, and through pain medication led through me doctor shopping and getting cut off from my pain medication, and that went into heroin. And I was at a methadone clinic for a while, got addicted to pretty much anything else you can, benzos, methamphetamine, and then I got clean.
Wow.
And my sobriety date is 4.
Awesome. Congratulations.
Awesome.
It's
Thanks,
amazing.
Yes.
It's amazing.
Yes, yes.
So what, you guys kind of go into like what your upbringing was and what led into like your first use of things, and were you just attached immediately or was it gradual?
Yeah. For me, I grew up in a home where my mom was 17 when she had me and my dad wasn't around. We moved a lot, and as most of us, I just never felt right. I had anxiety as a kid, even. I remember I used to feel like I was having heart attacks, but I realize now it was anxiety. And so for me, when I tried alcohol for the first time at 15, it was instantaneous. It took all those feelings away. I felt calm. Like it was just like, is this like, I felt carefree, like not a care in the world. And so I was hooked on the escapism pretty quickly. But for me, it was a long journey into what I would call alcoholism, where I could say that I became like a full alcoholic. It took years. I drank for like 25 years. But I was addicted to having fun. I was addicted to feeling good. I was addicted to escaping, and I just chased always feeling good. And I got married at 23. I had 2 children young, and me and my ex-husband, we drank a lot. all of our friends drank a lot. You know, it was normal as it goes. When you drink a lot, you tend to have friends that drink and party a lot, you know? And so it was just normal. And then it started coming into like play dates with kids and wine and mommy play dates. And
Huh.
you know, I didn't think I fit back then when I was so ignorant about, you know, alcoholism and addiction. It just seemed normal to me because it was glamorous. I was drinking wine, you know, I wasn't drinking out of a paper bag on the side of a road, like, but I was blacking out all the time, and that got worse. And I was driving with my kids in the car. I was drinking at play dates. I was drinking all the time, and just it was like all these little bottoms that just kept happening. You know, one night I had some kids over at the house, and I woke up in the morning and I was responsible for them, and I didn't remember putting them to bed, or, you know, waking up in the morning and, you know, touching my husband to see if he was mad at me, or like, and just falling asleep in my clothes. And there's just so many things that ended up happening, and it caused so many problems in my marriage. You know, I tried to get sober while I was still married, and at one point I had like 6 months, and then I had a year, but the marriage was toxic. He wasn't on a recovery journey with me, and it all just came to a head. I checked myself into rehab. I said I knew I was going to have to end the marriage, and I knew I should try to be sober to end it because I wasn't going to get through it drinking.
Yeah.
And I tried hard. I went to inpatient, and unfortunately, I got back out, filed for divorce, and then it got worse because then all of a sudden I found myself in an apartment with this loss, and then I was alone half the time because I didn't have my kids. So it was like even more triggers. It was like alone, the kids weren't there. And I was having such a hard time. And so then I went to inpatient or outpatient treatment, and then I just like kept collecting time, but then going back, and then like a little time. So I was just in and out of the rooms. I went to and I just couldn't get it to stick. And then came plant medicine. I was introduced to it, and it was like, you know, you have so much trauma. Why don't we work on your trauma? And then maybe, you know, it works for a lot of people. They'll quit drinking alcohol for good if they try ayahuasca or this or that. So I started trying mushrooms. I did DMT. But for me as an addict, I realize now I'm an addict, not just an alcoholic. Give me anything that makes me feel good, get high, and that's it. And unfortunately, that took me down a road of full blown, like a break from reality, like psychosis. I made a complete fool of myself on the internet. I like broadcasted my downfall basically for the world to see.
Was anxiety a big factor in all this?
Yes. I have PTSD. I have complex PTSD from my childhood and then my subsequent marriage. So I was earnestly trying to heal some of these things, but I lost it, and I actually ended up trying to end my life. I got evicted from my apartment. My ex-husband obviously took custody of the kids, and it was my entire world fell apart, and I had to move into sober living. But you know, that's what it took for me, was actually like I had to lose everything. And I'm actually so grateful now today that did happen, because if I just kept going with like little consequences, or, you know, somehow I had never gotten a DUI, I'd never been arrested, had that been able to keep going, you know what I mean? I don't know if I'd ever have been able to stop. And so it took like a hard lesson and loss to finally realize like I can't do it. And once you're in the court system, once you're fighting, you know, custody and all that, there's no room for a mess up, or, you know, you get drug tested. I had like all eyes on me and such accountability on me that it finally forced me to stop for good. And so that's in a nutshell. Yeah.
Wow.
Thanks.
Seriously.
It was rough
Yeah.
though.
That's powerful as a mother myself. So thank you
Yeah.
for telling us that, all of it.
Thank
I
you.
do want to jump into, okay, so now you're both in recovery. How do you guys meet? Like, do you meet at a meeting? Like, how do you guys meet?
Okay, so
We did meet at a meeting.
yeah, so Oh man, I think I was 3 years sober, and within AA and NA, there are these certain like principles, right, that you're supposed to follow. Not everyone follows those or adheres to those, but I happen to be surrounded by some really good men and some women that had been in the program for quite some time. So I knew I couldn't hang out with knuckleheads, so I gravitated toward those people. But long story short, I was COVID. The meetings started opening back up, and I got the key to a meeting. So I was secretarying a meeting, and for a little while, and one day I see her come in, and I was like, oh hey, who is that? Maybe she has some time, right? And I quickly found out that she was a newcomer, and I was like,
Mhm.
damn, okay, so
No
I have to
13th
be
step in right away, huh?
no 13th stepping, bro.
No,
And
I was
like
fresh off my divorce and
yeah,
in a bad way.
and like I
Yeah.
said, I had people that would hold me accountable, so I was and it was a good thing. I was being mindful. So I just kind of took note of her, and I like introduced myself. She introduced herself, and I remember immediately being like awestruck, like, wow, she's beautiful, but dot dot dot. So a few years passed. She dated other people. I dated other people. Obviously, those relationships were not good for us and they didn't work out. But one day I walk in work. So I'm a drug and alcohol counselor, and the company that she and I used to work for, I walk into work one morning, just a normal like Monday or Tuesday morning, and I open up the door and she's standing there. And immediately I was like, client or worker, like coworker. And I was like, what are you doing here? And she was like, oh, I work here. And I immediately was like, uh-oh. Yeah, it
Mhm.
was like one of those because she was dating somebody at the time. I was dating somebody. Both of our relationships weren't great, but I was immediately like, uh-oh, okay, so this is going to be a thing. And one thing led to another, and we both ended up back at the same house. We were both going through relationship issues. I was newly single. She was about to be newly single. So we were just talking relationship stuff and recovery. And one day, I was like, it just fell out of my mouth. I was like, if we didn't work together, I'd take you on a date. And then I was like,
Said it out loud
did I just say
subconsciously.
that out loud? Right. And she like looks at me and has this like flat affect and like immediately goes back to typing at her computer. And
You're
I
like,
was
did I
like,
just drop the ball on that
oh
one?
no, I did that. But yeah, I mean, it wasn't like what, a week or two later,
Yeah.
we went to a meeting together and then we went bowling
And
afterwards. And
never stopped hanging
we've
out.
been
Yeah.
Oh, that's
inseparable
awesome.
since. Yeah.
No, I love just looking at some of your content. You guys seem like so close and
Oh,
attached at the
Mhm.
hip, and it's a very cute relationship, I have to say. And I don't use
Thanks.
that word very often, okay?
thank
Yeah,
you.
thanks.
Yeah, and it's all because of sobriety and working a program and our faith
Yeah.
that we have the relationship that we have.
Yeah,
Because
really.
we're both divorced.
Mhm.
It's both we are engaged.
Yeah, and we're engaged.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
thank you.
That
But
is
it's both
awesome.
our second marriage, so it was a real journey for us to get to where we are with each other.
Great. So,
Yeah.
so Brandon, like, can we backtrack a little and just hear kind of how you evolved and ended up becoming a drug counselor? So, like, it started in teen years, I assume, and how did it escalate?
Yeah, actually, I've shared this in I think our first podcast that we have, but I'll expedite through it. Uh, like I said, my family, they normalized drinking. It was normal. I had a sprinkling of drug addicts in my family, but I used to bring my dad beers when I was a kid. Like I wanted my dad to like me and like give me the thumbs up and the pat on the back. And one day I brought him a beer and I was like, "Well, maybe if I pop it open for him, he'll be even more surprised." I acted like I was gonna drink it that day, and he was like, "Go ahead." And I guzzled like half the beer, and that was the first time that I felt it. It was slight, but I felt it. And like there was a lot of stuff that went on when I was a kid, but that was the first time that I felt okay, right? Like I didn't feel all the stuff that was stemming from what was going on in my head. Fast forward high school, early in high school, I started drinking and that led into drug usage. Um, Like I was a full-blown addict, and I drank harder than other people. I meant to drink harder than other people. I didn't need people to be around when I wanted to use Coke. I was totally fine listening to like really cheesy, like sappy indie songs and doing Coke in my car and getting drunk, like sitting in a parking lot. It was one of those things where I thoroughly, like, that was my release. Like, I don't know if I enjoyed it all the time, but it was my release. And I say this, I heard this from another friend. He said, alcohol and drugs kept me alive until they started killing me. And I
Yeah.
truly believe that. It led into opiate addiction, and that was that's like the real nosedive and downfall.
You got injured, and that's what started opiates.
Actually, I did.
Awesome.
I had a shoulder injury, and I re-injured it at work, and they sent me to the provider for the company. And so it was funny. I walked in, and I was already kind of dabbling in Vicodin, but he was like, here's 2 of these. Let me know when you run out. And it was 2 bottles of Vicodin, and I was like, man, I don't have to pay for it anymore. Sweet. So that led to somebody at work introducing me to oxycodone. They were cheaper when I started them, and obviously dealers are dealers for a good reason. They went more expensive. I started doctor shopping, and yeah, man, that led to my heroin addiction, and man, it just steamrolled from there. I had things like with my alcoholism, I never really quit drinking, and I drank harder after my divorce, and that led to full organ failure. I've had overdoses, full organ failure where I shouldn't have. Like, the doctor was like, well, welcome back. I was like, what do you mean? He's like, you didn't make it. And we were trying to figure out how to pull the plug or who to contact. And then your organs started working again. And I was,
Frightening.
that should have been enough, right?
Mhm.
It wasn't. It
Yeah.
wasn't. But yeah, that's kind of what happened. And then I ended up finally homeless, and I got the opportunity to go into treatment one more time, and I took it serious. That was when the moment of clarity happened, and I knew I was done with using and drinking, and I knew that I needed a different path. So I did that. Managed sober livings after I lived in sober livings, and one thing led to another, and I got a job in a treatment center, and then got my KDAC and started counseling and went back to school, and now I'm going to school for psychology. So it's
Yeah.
been a heck of a journey,
Awesome.
and I can't give enough credit to God for that. So
It's incredible. Yeah. You
Yeah.
two both chose the same path, and you're a counselor as well, Amanda?
So I'm a counselor in training. I am a registered drug and alcohol technician, and I'm done with my hours, and I just need to go take my KDAC exam. But the treatment center we worked at closed down, so I was out of a job, and so I'm kind of like in between right now.
Mhm.
But yeah, I'm a registered drug and alcohol technician.
Awesome.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
amazing.
so on the way to being a counselor.
And
Good.
she's honestly, like, she's a counselor already. Like, she's better. I always tell people, I'm like, she's way better at like connecting and like getting people to talk than I am. She just has this natural ability to, like, I don't know. She asks the right questions and people will open up to her. So yeah.
Great.
Yeah. It's amazing.
Thanks.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
quite a
from
journey.
Mm.
Quite a
I
journey.
bet. I understand. Totally understand. I have the same degree. So
Nice.
I love that.
Okay. So you work
So now
in,
you guys,
do you work
no.
in treatment? No.
No, I do work in the medical field, but not in treatment. I would love to one day. I just don't have the opportunity yet. I think it will come my way, but yeah.
Okay.
But
Cool.
my next question for you guys is, okay, so you guys start dating after meeting, and then you guys go to a meeting and then go bowling, and then you guys are in sobriety together. What happens though in early dating and sobriety when you guys get triggered together though? How was that?
That is a good question.
Ooh, like
Mhm.
triggered for like substances?
Well, not like, oh my gosh, I feel like using, unless that did happen. But is there a time when you first started having maybe a dilemma, a real problem in sobriety while dating each other, and you're triggered, you're upset? How do you handle it?
For sure. I would say, yeah, I mean, a relationship, two people, especially two people with like past issues,
Trauma.
they're going to be triggered. And then we're also addicts and alcoholics. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll let you follow up with this, but I would say that it definitely happens. Obviously, it's like just a normal relationship like anyone else, but because of the program and because of our education and because it's centered in God, like we have the humility to come to each other. But what do you?
Yeah, I think that the one really cool thing about, going through a failed marriage and then not just, oh, well, that happened, it's all their fault, and then just continuing forward. I think when you go through a divorce and then you choose recovery and then you're forced to look at yourself and all your character defects, and we work this program, you get a sense of like humility that I didn't have before. And, I prayed for a long time for a relationship with someone sober on the same path with me that speaks my language. And so I think the inner work that we both have done separately now translates to the way we are able to communicate. And even like when we don't get it right, we're quick to either make amends because that's what we're called to do, or forgive. Communication is our biggest thing, and we no longer have drugs or alcohol like messing with our reactivity or our like.
Yeah.
So there's just a calm that's there. So we really just talk through it. And it's an added bonus that, he's getting his master's in psychology, we're counselors. So we've kind of learned the language. And so we just apply everything I think that we've learned to each other.
Mhm.
And creates a healthy relationship.
So
Right.
healthy. It's like, I mean, it's not perfect, but it's just about as
But
close as it could be, I swear.
Well, you look back at the toxicity and probably past relationships and you compare it to what you guys have, I'm sure it's an incredible difference.
Oh, for
like
sure.
monumentous. And when
For
you
sure.
have someone who's also vulnerable and willing to take an accountability, it softens you. And I don't know, it's just this like really beautiful
Mutual respect.
mutual respect, mutual humility, mutual want to do better, a mutual desire to create healthy. I think when you've been through so much, and you finally find something it's healthy, it's like you don't want to get in your own way. Like, and so I'm just constantly checking myself.
That
That's what I'm doing.
I think what you
Yeah.
just said, like that too is a huge, I guess, aspect of it is we've both been married and we've both worked a program or work a program. And with that comes some accountability for our own behaviors from the past, right? And then I spent a lot of time single and like thinking about who I wanted to be in the next relationship, if there was ever a next serious relationship, like the type of person that I wanted to be. And I know she has too. And I think that, like sometimes we don't appreciate certain aspects of relationships when we're in our active addiction and we don't see like the good aspects, because there were some bad aspects to our past relationships, but like there was a lot of growth there for me on a personal level. And I know that you could probably attest to that as well, is like you have a lot of time to sit and think, right? And then you come to this person that you absolutely like adore and want to take care of and don't want to hurt and want to grow with. So it's like, I don't want to be that person either. So this time I want to make sure I do it.
Are there some specific character defects you each had that you most notably had to work on when you got together?
Absolutely not.
Everybody's perfect.
For me, I can have a tendency to be really like defensive, like just because for a long time I was on the defense because I gave people reason to, say things about me or whatever. But, and then from my childhood and past, I've built up, like I had built up a real wall and I had become kind of like a fighter, because to survive. But that's also because I've never had a partner that I was really safe to be soft and vulnerable to. I just didn't have that. I had to have like a very tough exterior, and kind of letting that go away and realizing I don't need to be a fighter. I don't need to be aggressive. I don't need to be loud and to be heard. So really just coming into like my soft, like feminine side, truly, like that was
Taking that
hard
tough wall
because
down.
yeah, and I'm half Puerto Rican, and I come, my
Oh
family's
yeah,
loud, and it's just
very strong
Yeah.
personalities, right?
yeah, and my mom is a very strong like personality. She'll be the first one to say like she's a bulldog, and so I've just kind of she was a single mom, 17, like so she's had to be this like tough person, and so I just was like tough, like but not in a good way. It's not cute, so that I would think that was.
That's a
Would you
great
agree?
answer.
Yeah, I
Very
would
honest
agree.
answer.
Yeah, I would agree. And it's interesting to have seen like the growth process with her and coming to that like softer place and realizing like I don't need to protect myself from this individual because this individual does not want to hurt me. Like they genuinely care. And I think it's been a beautiful thing to see that aspect of her blossom.
Yes,
Especially as you had to learn to be sensitive to that and
For sure.
let her.
Yeah.
I get it.
I think
Yeah.
being mindful and aware
Yeah.
of like the words that are coming out of my mouth, but also there's a big thing with us. It's the energy we are carrying, It's like we'll call each other. It's like, what's going on with you? Are you okay? Because I've noticed an energy shift in like what's like
Yeah.
your being and like we can like instead of getting defensive, we can talk about it. But I think that being said, it leads into what your question was like. I was raised to be full of fear, and that fear stems from insecurity, fear of abandonment, not being good enough, right? These things were taught to me, or I learned them at a very early age, and that led me to the F everything and run, and like I don't mind, I don't care, I'll get loaded and I'll burn it all down for you, right? And that and it took me a long time to realize it was fear, and so I think she's worked with me on this in like in numerous ways to like understand that like I can trust her. I can trust a person with like all aspects of my being. And I think that's been my growth process. And like those
Right.
were my character defects.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
talked
getting
about
rid of-
this. We talked about it too because I think some of it stems from like us not even being able to trust ourselves back in the day when
Yeah.
we were using and drinking. We're constantly going against what we said we were going to do. We're being sneaky, we're being shady. And so when we live like that for a long time, we can assume that other people are shady and out there sneaking around or whatever, you know what I mean? And so but that's the cool thing is we like can realize like the theme of what's happening, and then we can really like dig into it and be like, where do you think this stems from? Or probably
Yeah.
because we were like sneaky assholes for a long time. So it's like hard to now trust another person that they're not anymore, they're not like us or
Yeah.
how we used to be.
Yeah, I totally get it.
And what hobbies do you have together now other than meetings?
So the Undead Club for sure. Starting that, the clothing line and this whole, I don't even know what you want to call it, a movement. It's really like a hobby for us, It's just like a fun way to connect with the community and inspire people. And Brandon's a musician. He didn't mention that, but he was in a band, and his addiction, took that from him. So
Okay.
we wanted to include music. I have the bass.
Yeah.
He has the guitar.
I just bought her a bass.
My
Yes.
dad plays the bass.
Oh,
I
very
love
cool.
that.
Love it.
I'm
Yeah.
very new, so I'm
She's picking it up though. So like
so we
So
play music.
we play
Love
music.
it.
We I skated most of my life, and then I lost that obviously in my addiction because
Right.
who can be high and keep their balance on a skateboard, or loaded, right? But like over the past year, 6 months,
Yeah.
we've because that was a huge part of my growing up. She's actually she got a longboard. I bought a new board, and we started skating again. Or she started skating, I started skating again, which is definitely much harder when you start up again and you're 45 years old. It hurts a lot more to hit the ground, but her kids they go with us too. So
Yeah, my daughter can rip it on
Yeah.
out of the skate park.
she's good.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So you guys stay really active. That's cool.
Yeah.
We do.
And
We
you're-
work it. We go to the gym a lot together. Yeah.
Awesome. So
Awesome.
what inspired punk rock recovery? I want to know all about that. I know you guys are both into music, you
Mhm.
said. So how does that go?
So that's actually like a really random funny story is at the treatment center that I used to work at, that we worked at, I used to run groups. We ran groups. And one of the groups I'd always do this Bob Forrest. I don't know if you're familiar with who Bob Forrest is. He used to be on like Celebrity Rehab with Dr. Drew. Anyways, he has this documentary about his life and how he got sober, and it's all the musicians, it's all like Red Hot Chili Peppers, like all just circle jerks. Like it has all these musicians in it. And at the and I love it. It was just one of my favorite things to show people because he was like a down and out drug addict, rock and roll guy. And at the very end, he goes, "This is punk rock recovery." And I just like loved it. And one of the clients like scribbled on her little notepad that day, like punk rock recovery. And I thought it was so cute. And so I snapped a little photo of just like the little punk rock recovery and I sent it to Bob Forrest. And I was like, "You'll probably never ever see this, but I just want you to know I show your documentary and your story inspires so many people." And it was, just how we reach out to people in recovery. I don't know what inspired me to do it, but he ended up writing back to me and he did see it. And then Brandon and I ended up talking to him like all night. They had a bunch of, because Brandon, like I said, used to live in LA, was a musician, went through the musician what is it? The MAP program? What's that?
MAP program.
What's MAP?
I can't
musician assisted program. Anyways, it helps get musicians in particular sober. And so they knew mutual people and I don't even know what came over us. It was like a spiritual experience. I don't know. I was just like, let's do something with this. Let's create a brand or let's somehow bring punk rock and roll, like the skate life, all the things that we like love to do when we were young, and let's like merge it with recovery. And so it was going to be called Punk Rock Recovery, but then the name of the brand but then we saw that was being used by like some group somewhere. And then we were like, okay, shit, well, it can still be Punk Rock Recovery, but what can the brand be called? Yeah. And then so we came up with the Undead Club, because Brandon had mentioned that he had overdosed in his addiction. I almost died when I attempted to take my life. And so we liked the symbolism of like we literally died and came back from the dead, but also that like addiction is like you're like the walking dead. You're alive, but your spirit's dead. You're dead inside. If you're fully in addiction, you're dead inside. And so we just liked the idea, the symbolism of like the undead, like we've come back from the dead and here we are. And so I was a creative. He's a creative. I'm a creative. I was a makeup artist for a long time. I was a floral designer for several years, used to do like big weddings and events. And that was something that died when I got sober. The creativity in me I don't know. I was so in like survival mode and just trying to rebuild and survive that the creative piece just vanished. And I was missing it and I felt it. And I was like, I've got to do something so I can use that side of my brain because that's the part of my brain that thrives. And so it really just started like doing fun little, it's just fun. It was fun. And it's just kind of like taking off in such a fun way. We have all, we got Bob Forrest on it. We got all these like punk rock bands that are starting to follow us. Like, just like, it's just really fun. It's just really fun. And I think I might be out there, but I hadn't seen anyone that was doing like specifically like rock and roll and sobriety in that way. And it was just something like when I first got sober, if I had seen it, like I would have loved it. Like it would have been like sobriety can be cool, like you don't have to be a wet blanket and be sober. Like, cause I identified so much with like the rock and roll party, like let's go hard lifestyle that I was like, how the hell am I going to be sober? Like, who am I going to be? Like, do I have to lose it all, And so I think it was just, I wanted to show people that like you can still be rock and roll, you can still be cool, you can still, you know what I mean, and have like an edge and be sober. And sobriety's fucking way cooler, anyways. So yeah.
I think it spiraled too, like in such a fun way. It was so I don't know if you guys can relate, but when you do something like she was so excited in the beginning, like a little kid, like if you know Amanda, you know when things like naturally just come to fruition and she's excited. She's like a child. She has that child excitement and she was so stoked. And it sometimes people can, like, when they play in bands, it can be very calculated and over thought out and it's obvious, and then the band, it doesn't really like have the same feel. But this thing was just like all like pure energy and fun, and it was just kind of like one thing happening after another, and I think that like translates.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the other thing too is that it's no secret that it's one thing to get sober, it's another thing to stay sober. It's hard. The pink cloud wears off.
Yeah.
We're still young, and I have lots of friends that are still out there, and it's hard. And so for me, it's like an online diary, like a sneaky way. It's like a post will, maybe I was triggered the night before, I had a using dream or this. So it's really like exactly what I'm going through, and I just get to make it for the masses. But it truly helps me stay sober. So it's kind of selfish in a way too.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
and you guys get to utilize your creative sides in sobriety, and that's helps check your mind out and focus on something, and that keeps you sober.
Yeah, and it's
Yeah.
so cool too because I don't know if you guys experience this, but you might have close friends or family that are supportive or not that supportive because maybe they're not in recovery, they don't get it. They
Well, I
think,
just did a cast because I had somebody in the family shut me down. I was like,
Oh,
uh,
bumsy.
it's hard. I wake up, my family still drinks around me. Like, it's hard. So this has been a way, and even like going to like our local AA, it's great, but it's only so big. So this has like the fact that we're talking to you guys right now, like total strangers, but here we get to connect. Like, it has just opened the door to like that sobriety is just not here in Temecula, California. It's like all over the world. And it can be not off-putting. I don't want to, but like when you see the same people at meetings and you're hearing the same stories and the same this, like your world can feel very small. And so this has opened up our recovery world, and like, God, there's so many cool people out there who are sober and that care and they want to talk, and they sometimes they clap for you louder than somebody you've known your whole life. And
That's
so
so
it's
true.
yeah.
I
That's what I love about
Go ahead.
this podcast, just starting this, and like I didn't expect it to meet many people. I figured, I'm going to reach out to people just to be on my show, but the people and the community that I have met in the last 6 months has just been incredible, and it makes it all worth it. Just making these friendships and relationships and people I don't even know, never met in person, have been the most supportive people I've ever met sometimes.
Right.
Yeah.
Literally.
Well, and that's the like beautiful thing I think about recovery too, is like we don't have to necessarily have grown up together or know each other. We just know that you know what it's like. You've been there, and you know exactly probably how I'm feeling on any given day. And
We
there's
all want
such
the same thing.
Yes, and there's such power and connection in just that. Like, you can feel closer to somebody you're just meeting just because they're like, me too.
Yeah. I think too, like
Yep.
the fact that like it's on social media, right? And it's not just in your own bubble. There's so many people. I know for myself, when I first tried to get sober, I thought it was about like these boring, stale rooms where old people went and drank coffee and like just abstained from getting loaded because they burnt their life to the ground, right? But there's so much education out there that's freely flowing through this one channel, but multiple channels. And there's been so much education or things that we've learned about the brain and addiction just over the last like 20 years, right? Over the last 5 years. So like that stuff being like ushered through, and people are going, you know what? It's not just about like getting old and having to abstain from like drugs and alcohol because like your life ended up sucking really bad because of your own decision making. This is actually about the possibility of having a much more beautiful human existence and experience through abstaining from poisoning yourself. And like, watch what can happen to your relationships in your own life.
I mean, some people get sober earlier or later than others, but it's like you look at it, you're like, I got so much life to live now sober. I can experience everything. Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
exactly.
And the
Yeah.
opposite
It's
of
such
addiction is connection.
That one.
Yes. Amen to that.
Yeah. What's his name? Johan Hari. He said that in his TED Talk.
Yeah.
Yeah, at the
Good quote.
very end of his TED Talk, and I love that. When I heard that
so
the first
true.
time, it blew my mind.
It's so
It's like, it's
true.
so
It's beyond
simple.
true.
All the
Yeah,
little
it's
slogans are
beyond it.
so simple, but so true,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, we're like,
Well,
whoa.
I know. Even the serenity prayer is like the most simple prayer of all time. But like when I really am like, God, I can use it for everything, and I do.
Yeah.
That's awesome,
Yeah,
right? It's like
yeah,
today I said, no, nobody came in here on a winning streak, and everybody's like nodding their head. They're like, yep.
Yeah,
Right?
I'm all yeah.
Yeah,
It's
for
so
sure.
true.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And another cool thing about like this time that that we get to we're talking with each other right now, like what a cool freaking time to be sober. Cause
Mm-hmm.
like he was saying, like, before we had Zoom and all this stuff and social media, it really was just the four walls of if you were
yeah.
going to meetings or church or
Yeah.
whatever support group, and that was it. Like we now, we've had so many, like such as yourselves, so many cool people come into our orbit that like it's so inspiring.
Mhm.
And that's what I would tell my clients, especially the young ones. I'm like, if there was ever a time to get sober, like this is like the coolest time. You have so many like rock stars, athletes, reality TV people, celebrities, just everybody's talking about it. They have dry bars now. I mean, like, it's not just water and coffee anymore. They have whole mocktail. I mean, it's just like, it's still, there's still so much stigma, and that's why we're here and we're recovering out loud and we're still trying to fight it, but it has gotten so much better, and it's such a powerful time right now.
Yeah.
It's really
It
cool to
is.
watch.
It's
It's
cool
really
to
cool.
talk recovery now. It's cool
Yeah.
to be sober. They're making it fashionable, and I like it. So
Mhm.
Yeah.
For
And
sure.
Yeah.
and the CDC or the health organization finally caught up and said there's no safe amount of alcohol. And so, and you don't even have to burn your life to the ground anymore. Like people are choosing it because they understand, it's just as bad as smoking was, or, they're being proactive about their health. And like, there was a study that came out that said that the younger generations are drinking, like millennials, like we took the cake,
Mhm.
like we drank it all. But like the younger generations, they aren't drinking as much, which I think is so cool.
I think
Yeah.
so too. I know.
Too.
I was curious. You guys mentioned faith and prayer a couple of times. How has that played a role in both your recovery together?
Man, I think it is the reason to me. Like, I mean, not everybody subscribes to the whole God, higher power thing, and that's, to each their own. But, I used to play God in my life, and then I realized I sucked at playing God. And so I had to like, and I always had this like huge spiritual aspect of me, but I was just dulling it and like numbing it out. And when I finally said, all right, I need some help and I know I can't do this alone, it's like a snap, something clicked. And I think for us, it's really the core of a lot of the way we live our life, not just with recovery, but, like, how would God do this? Right. And it's really simple, but like, how would God do this? And like learning to connect and like talk to God and learning to listen and not acting impulsively, even when it, like you were saying, when you're triggered and doing those things. I think it's just the core of what we do.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, for me, it's been a real journey because I grew up in a religious household, and the God that I thought I understood as a kid was, a God of judgment, a God of punishing. So I was pretty not into it. I had gay friends. I had a friend who had committed suicide when we were young, and I was told he was going to hell. And so I just really wanted nothing to do with it. So I went completely the other way. I was like a self-proclaimed atheist. Like I used to, like I'd get into like religious debates with you, and I just wanted nothing to do with it. And look how that turned out. But I can thank AA, because what changed it for me was just the concept of like a higher power and a God of your own understanding. And never in my life have I heard it said that way. It was a very specific God and specific text and specific rules. And it caused a lot of pain for me in my life. So slowly but surely kind of opened my mind up to that. And then, when little things started to happen, like I found myself in rehab for whatever reason, I fell on my knees and like cried out to God. I was just like at my lowest. And it was just baby steps like that I started to develop that relationship. And, I will not lie, because I think he's a little more solid, where I'm still more like on a journey with it. Like religion I have a tough time with it. So, but I believe in a God, and I know that I'm not in control, and I've accepted that, and it was a relief actually to figure that out. And when I had my suicide attempt, I was overdosing, and I cried out to God to please save me. And it was in that exact moment that I like started vomiting. And for me, that felt like a really spiritual experience, that God was
Mm-hmm.
doing for me what I couldn't do. And I felt like he was there. And so that fast tracked for me a relationship. But it's a work in progress. It's something I'm still trying to unlearn, my jadedness and my closed mind that I had for so long. But I really give it up to AA for giving me a God of my own understanding and a higher power, because, like I said, I mentioned the Serenity Prayer. I say it all the time. I believe in prayer, and I meditate now, and it is central to everything. But I don't like to pretend like it's some, like, you go from this one lifestyle and then all of a sudden you're this like shiny saint, because I think that can turn a lot of people off, because it does feel unreachable for a lot of people. So
Yeah.
I like to say that it's a journey. It's a journey.
It's a journey.
Yeah.
Requires
Yeah.
growth and
Right.
patience, and
Yeah.
Of
everybody's got a
course.
different pace.
I like that. I like that. And that brings me to something I was just thinking is like when I first started working with my sponsor, he was like, "So tell me about your spiritual experience." And I was like, "Man, I don't know what happened, but like, you know how some people come in and they say, or some people say that God comes in and he turns the dimmer on, right?
Uh-huh.
Slowly." I was like, I feel like he came in and he flipped on all the light switches at one
Yeah.
time, and it scared the living hell out of me. And I was
Yeah.
like, "What's going on?" And he was like, "That's actually kind of like," he was like, "Have fun with that." And so for a minute, like I was like kind of shaken, but totally like sold on this. Like God just stepped in and really took control. And it's been kind of a fun journey with her, like as a couple, because like we talk about this and we go, not back and forth in argument, but like understanding. And she's like, "Well, how do how do you see this?" And I'm like, "Well, you said it just a minute ago. It's like patience." And like, I think that's the one thing that like God really asks us is, one, patience, and two, humility. And he's like,
Uh-huh.
have some humility and have some patience. And I think then we get to enjoy the human experience.
Yeah. And another fun slogan, sometimes quickly, sometimes
Yeah.
slowly. More and more will be revealed. More
Yep.
will be revealed.
I love that one. No, it all
Yeah.
makes sense the more longer you keep going back.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And I do have a question. How did faith help you forgive yourselves?
That's a really good question. How did faith help us forgive ourselves? I think that understanding. Do you want me to take this one first?
Yeah, I know mine.
Okay. I think that coming to the understanding that God is all or God is nothing, and that everything was set in motion long ago, and that everything had to happen in a certain way for us to come to this level of humility where we were able to surrender was the point where I realized I wasn't in charge. And that also gave me the understanding that, like, if this had all been conducted right, if this was all meant to go this way, or was just going to, then I am like flawed, because I'm not God, I'm a human being. But having the humility and the accountability and taking responsibility for your own actions and trusting the process is what my sponsor told me to do, because that's what God asks of us. Making those amends, when you make those amends, a lot of people forget that you are one of the people that needs to be on your amends list. And I think you make those amends to people, but you cannot forget to forgive yourself. Cannot forget to make amends to yourself. And when you write a letter to God, and you write a letter of what God's going to say back to you, like, my God is a very forgiving God, and that gave me the ability to forgive myself.
Beautiful said.
Yeah, I think this is another journey, right? Especially as a mom, we talked about, because, for me, this is an ongoing thing, because I never in my wildest dreams thought that I would get to a place of supervised visitation or any of the things that like happened with my kids. And obviously, or thankfully, we're well past that, and the kids come here and spend the weekends and stuff. But even that, like going from a stay-at-home mom to and a full-time mom to now I have my kids, weekends. It's so hard. And through getting my God and my higher power, and they say like, the reason he came was to wash our sins. And so for me, I went and I actually got baptized because it felt like the outward, literally like a cleansing, like washing anew. And it just made me feel like I was starting anew. And so just having faith, like he said, that like all it was meant to happen, because if none of it had happened, we wouldn't, be together, wouldn't have this house, we wouldn't be talking to you. So there's so much good that came out of it. And so just having faith that there was ultimately a plan helps me. And also becoming counselors and learning about addiction, learning about trauma, about toxic family systems, education was such a huge part in learning how to forgive myself, because we do the best we can with what we have, what we know. And so arming myself with some knowledge helps in the forgiveness. It's happy to say that I no longer live in shame, for sure. I know that, but guilt, absolutely. And like, it's definitely still an ongoing process. And you had talked about making like the actual amends, but I think what helps the most is just making this living amends. Like my kids can call me anytime of the day. Mom's not going to be buzzed, drunk, high, nothing. Like, it's just consistently showing up day after day and just doing the next right thing is what helps me forgive myself, because I'm just not that person anymore. And keeping the promises I make to myself and others proves it. And that's how I am healing.
Yeah.
Awesome. Great answer.
Nice.
I think
Great
seeing the
answer. And
faith, your faith
Mhm.
grows too when you see, like for me specifically, I get to watch this healing process with her and her kids and like and like
You had
I
a front row
see,
seat to watch it.
right? And how can you
Yeah.
not have faith when you see the miracles that God is doing for something that seemed like an impossibility for someone? And like if that's not enough, I don't know what is.
That's amazing. It's beautiful to
Yeah, that
watch
is
firsthand,
amazing. It
Yeah,
is
for
amazing.
sure.
Yeah. And if somebody's listening in silence and in pain right now, what advice would you say to them directly?
Silence and pain with their addiction.
Yes.
There's a multitude of things. I think
Mhm.
I'm trying to not think like a counselor right now.
Yeah.
You
Uh,
can, you can.
You can give
no,
You
professional
Yeah,
can.
you're a
answer.
Yeah,
counselor.
you can.
I said
Yeah.
something yesterday. I was meeting with this young lady, and she's homeless and she has kids in there. Just her life is in utter disarray, and it reminded me of sitting in that chair and talking to a counselor. And the one thing I said to her was, I said, I've been where you are. I've been in your seat. I said, I know what you're feeling. Maybe not all the feelings specifically because it's unique to you, but I said, I know how empty and how scared and like exactly what you're thinking and feeling. And I said, I was homeless. I was there. I said, I lost all that too. I said, but if God's going to do it for me, why wouldn't he do it for you? I was like,
Mm.
I said, if I can do this, and I was a mess. And she was laughing, but she was crying at the same time. And I was trying not to cry because like counselors aren't supposed to do that. Right.
Yeah.
And I just told her, I was like, if I can do this and God did this for me, right? And I can walk step by step, I was like, you can do it too. I was like, you just need to trust the process and like trust that other people understand and that they'll help you. And she just looked at me and she was like crying and laughing. She was like, okay. And I think that would be my answer.
It's a good
It's a
one.
great answer.
It's a
That's
good
a good
one.
one.
Yeah. Yeah. I would tell people almost exactly that, is like, so many of us have been there. And if you walk into a room of Alcoholics Anonymous or Celebrate Recovery or something, you will see the miracles firsthand. Like, it exists, not because I'm saying it does, but you can go and witness it firsthand. And you are not alone in this. None of us of what we're going through is unique. We have all been there. There are so many humans out there that have walked such similar paths, who have felt all the same similar feelings, and that genuinely want to help. So don't give up on yourself, before the miracle happens. Like, reach out a hand and let someone help you. Don't try to do this alone. I think that's actually like the biggest is like, there is help available. It doesn't have to be rehab. It doesn't have to be, there's so many avenues you can go. But the fact of the matter is doing it on our own didn't work. It's what brought us to where we were. So we have to reach out our hand and ask somebody for help, and that there are billions of people around the world that want to take your hand and help you and will. But you have to take that first step and ask for help.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that requires humility and surrendering and all that.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Yeah. It's like you're
So-
not. You're not alone.
Yeah. So you guys basically you guys started a business together. You got merch and all that. Can you kind of shout out where people can find that and all?
Yeah, so we are on Instagram at the Undead Club, and we have an online shop for the merch, which you can find in the link of the bio on the Instagram page, or you can just Google the Undead Club, it pops up. But that's where our merch lives, and that's where we live. Well, not really, but online.
Awesome. Awesome. So you guys probably spend a lot of time together, starting a business, podcast, all this stuff together. Probably go to the same meetings and stuff. That's
Very
good.
lucky, yeah.
That's
We
good.
try to find a balance, but yeah, we're best. It's funny because we laugh about it. We're best friends, and we hang out with each other all the time. But we definitely like make sure, like I have my job, right, and she has her job, so we have times where we're not
Great.
on top of each other.
You guys build each other up and keep each other sober, it sounds like, and that's
For
most
sure.
important. So
Yeah,
Right.
100%.
that's great that
Yeah.
you guys found each other and found that connection, and now you're spreading the word to everybody and doing it in a fun way with punk rock recovery. I love it. So
Thank you.
yeah.
Thank you so
Oh, yeah.
much. Yeah.
yeah, thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for being on the show. Is there anything you'd else like to ask, Rachel?
No, I love that you guys found each other in sobriety and you are faith-based, and I really love it. So I'm inspired by it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's like one thing that I want people to hold on to too, because a lot of times we find ourselves in these really unhealthy relationships when we're, in our addictions or newly sober. I think that that's a message that I want, especially women to hear, that there are healthy relationships out there, but, do the work on yourself first, but don't settle, because I wouldn't be able to stay sober if I was with somebody that was drinking or using or unhealthy and toxic, and, fight for that, fight for yourself, and believe that it's out there.
For sure.
And be a
Exactly.
person that's worthy of that kind of relationship too, because he
Yeah.
wouldn't be with me, the old me, either.
For
You guys are doing amazing work, and you're an inspiration, not just for people in recovery, but for couples that are sober together. I mean, I think it's amazing. So
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for
Yeah.
asking us to come on this. It was
Yeah.
a lot of
yeah,
fun.
appreciate you. Yeah, I appreciate you joining. Thank you a lot.
Yeah. We wish you all the best luck too with this podcast. I
Thank
know
you.
You're great at it. Yeah,
Thanks.
both of you are great at this. So like,
Thank you.
I know it's gonna do well.
Rock Bottom with Ryan. No bullshit, just recovery.